When he played at Marquette and around the world on a basketball court, Cordell Henry could soar, but I suspect he never soared so high as when he embraced his faith. And he has been kind enough to join us on My Faith with Homer and Pip. The incomparable Brent Young is our producer, and what can we say? But he is the great Homer True. He made the connection. So, Homer, please tip it off for us with Cordell Henry.
Cordell, I saw it on Twitter. It was some recognition of your baptism. And I thought, I want to know his story. Start wherever you want, your youth or that day and the anniversary of that day, which is what I believe was on Twitter.
Right. So I've had a background of faith for a long time. My mom and dad used to go to church, Baptist church, when I was little. It just felt like something was calling me for some time, and I was kind of ignoring it. You know, as a young man coming out of Chicago, from Chicago, growing up, and it was just something I had to kind of embrace. And it got to a point in my life, went all through high school, all through college. I just felt out of place sometimes. I just being around certain people, certain places. It was a point in my life, 2013 to be exact, when I decided to get baptized and kind of, embrace that calling on my life, which was embracing my faith in God. And, it's been a journey. It's not, no one's perfect in this walk, this journey. But, it was just something that, it just felt like something was bigger than myself. And, I just submitted. I submitted on June 24th, 2013, completely. I felt, it's been great. It's been 7 years now. And it just, I just wanted to put something bigger in my life.
When did it start where you gave thought to going back to what you remembered as a young child? Something happened before that date.
Right. So I would say 2003, when I played in France. It gave me a lot of time to reflect on my life. At that point, I had just graduated from college. I didn't have a lot of direction. I was kind of waiting for a job. I did the Portsmouth NBA camp. I did the Chicago pre-draft camp. So I did all these camps, and I was waiting. And, so when I got my first offer to play in France, it gave me a lot of time to reflect on my life and where I was heading. It was a 7-hour difference between France and Chicago, which is where I'm from. And, it gave me a lot of long time with God to just keep, it was in my heart. And that was the time, I'll say 2003 in France. And it just, I just kept building that relationship. And I say it all the time, it's not about religion. It's about a relationship with God, an intimate relationship of worship, of fasting. And that's kind of that was that pivot point, I would say, in France, 2003, when I first played professional basketball, that I kind of just really, was really going to that call.
Did you talk to him first? When did he talk to you?
Well, I think it was more so him talking to me first. Sometimes in life when we just be still, when I was playing basketball, I was always going from, since a kid, AAU basketball, then high school to college, I was never still. So I think when I got to France, it was kind of like I was still. It was a time of practice in the morning and then practice at night. And, I was in a country that I didn't speak the language. It was really just myself, but I was there alone, for the most part. There's only 2 Americans per team. And, so during that time, it was like I could just feel God's presence just talking to me. And, I finally submitted. And then, obviously I ended up talking back to him, and it became a relationship. So it's not a relationship unless you go back and forth and there's a communication piece and a response piece. So I started responding.
I'm not at all surprised by this, but everybody's is different to what you feel like. What did you feel God was saying to you, or what was he showing to you? Because my assumption is, and you may be different, that you don't really buy it at the beginning. Come on, God, you got to do better. Maybe I'm more negative than others are. That's why I'm curious to that relationship, because it differs with every person.
Absolutely. So there was another particular moment in my life. My cousin Mila, she was suffering I can't even pronounce she had a rare disease, and it was kind of weird. She was like 7 years old, and we never really spoke. And so her parents, they were living in Peoria at the time, but they're from Birmingham. So they came to Chicago. She was going to the Ronald McDonald House, and they said she had a 50-50 chance to live. And so at that point, I just felt helpless, and I just fasted. I went 4 months of just complete, like just everything, just me and God, just worshiping, reading the Bible. And I started to go visit her more often. She after she had her surgery, and she was in a coma for like 3 months. So during that fast that I was walking with God, that 4 months, I started visiting my cousin. She started moving. Like, she literally started moving her hands and stuff like that. Now, I don't know. Maybe it was in my mind. I'm like, man, God, this is a sign. Maybe it's that. But then I started going deeper and deeper and deeper. And then, long story short, she came out of it, and she, it was weird. And she, like, when she came out of it, my name and my sister's name was the only people that she kind of like remembered. But we didn't have a relationship right before that. I never really spoke to my cousin like that, because she was living in another state. Another city, and we just never had a relationship. So, of me going there and talking and praying to God, I just felt like our journey of her and my journey with God was going hand in hand. And so that was like a sign. I would say that was in 2012 to be exact. I just retired from playing basketball overseas, and I just felt like, man, this is it. God was like, this is it right here. You're done with basketball. Now it's time for the next thing in your life. And and I was like, okay, God, the things I was doing in my life in basketball, that was me. That was what I wanted to do when I was a kid. Now God slowed me down and said, okay, you had your time. I was with you through every step of the way. Now it's time for me. And I humbly submitted to him.
Again, I listen and go, you can say it, Cordell. You believe he had an influence on that person's life. And when you saw it, you said, all right, I'm in. I don't know if that's the case.
Right.
I'm thinking that.
Well, it was, like I say, it goes back to not just that first time in France. It was multiple times where I had to rely on him. It was every time I went overseas, it literally was just me. There was no other relationship. My second year, I was in Serbia. The players didn't speak English. My coach didn't speak English. I had a translator. And so it was like everything was just foreign to me my first 2 years overseas. So really, that relationship with talking to God and just reading the Bible, it kept strengthening. And then obviously when I retired, that incident with my cousin, so it was a multiple things that God kept showing me, like, hey, it's time. Your time is now. And I'm like, man, God, now? Like, really? Seriously? And so, then I kept going. I joined a church in Chicago. And like the first time I went to church, I've never been to that church before in my life. At the end of that service, a pastor came to me at the end. I like sitting in the back. I'm not never sitting in the front. I'm sitting in the back. The pastor came when it was all over. He tapped me on my shoulder and said, hey, can I pray for you? And I'm like, okay. So he pulled me to the back. He prophesied over my life. I believe in prophets, and it was in the Bible. I believe in modern day prophets now. And he prophesied over my life and kind of told me exactly what I'm doing with youth. And it was funny because when I actually moved here in Florida 4 years ago, I joined another church. These two people never met each other. The person in Chicago and this pastor, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But this pastor here said the exact same thing that the pastor said in Chicago. Said, I have I'm tied to youth, and that's gonna be my calling with the youth. So, here I am at IMG. I coached at Mount Verde, and the youth has always been my passion. So I guess everything's kind of getting tied in right now.
I sense an incredible peace. Well, you smile. I know part of you they're thinking I'm crazy. They're thinking I don't think you're crazy at all. This is why we do this. This is
right.
It's both amazing, but it's common. Everybody has a different story, but at some point you bought in, you say, okay.
Right.
And then
right.
What's happened from then? I assume there's a peace and a happiness that you feel, at least you look that way.
Yeah, it's just doors open. When you submit, it's one thing, and I tell my players all the time, it's a difference between committing to something and submitting. When you commit, when I committed to Marquette, I had to sign something first. But when I submit, I had to submit that paper. So when I first committed to Mike Dean, I committed first. But then I signed along the line. Then I submitted that paper to Marquette University. So it's a difference, because anybody can commit to something. But when you submit to a thing, then it becomes a spiritual thing. You know what I mean? Because you take on something that's bigger than yourself. So, right now, doors have been opening. How I got to IMG, it's been amazing. At one point, I was talking to a young man. Well, I can say young, but at that time, he was 34, and I was coming in. I was just leaving Marquette, and I was playing in a Nike tour team. So the guy, that I kind of, went to magnetized to, he was kind of telling me about what life is about when you get overseas, and I was talking to him. And then last year, out of the blue, he called me and said, hey, you want to work at IMG with my wife? And And it's like the door just opened out the blue. No resume, no nothing, just opened up, no phone calls, no nothing. And, you know, it was a relationship with him and I throughout the years, but it just opened up. And the same thing with Mount Verde. When I coached at Mount Verde 2 years ago, I was training a young lady. She was getting ready for the WNBA draft. I hit up somebody I know called EC Hill. Her name is EC Hill. She was a coach at Mount Verde. So when I left Chicago, I didn't have a job lined up. When I left Chicago, because I was coaching North Park University, I just left on faith. And then I call out the blue, say, "Hey, I'm moving to Mount Verde. I have a job opening at Mount Verde coaching girls." I'm like, I'm actually moving to Florida. So it's an alignment of different things just coming out the blue. No resumes, no phone calls, no nothing. It's just things just opening. So when you submit to God, it just things work in your favor.
Pip can take it from here, Tommy, but I have only one thing. I love making t-shirts, and I'm going to make one that says, and you have to tell exactly, or whatever you want to say. Here, you don't commit, you submit, or however you want to put it. You tell me how you want it on that t-shirt, and I'm going to make them from you, because that's a great point. And I just want to make sure however you do it is exactly how you want it said on the, now, or you can put it on the back of a t-shirt. Front of the t-shirt, it's a strong. Back of the t-shirt, they can see it as you're walking by. I think you're a front of the t-shirt guy when it comes to this.
Absolutely. And I would say I would never silence my faith. Like, my faith is like, I'm not gonna never silence that. You know, I mean, I understand everyone have their different beliefs. I respect everyone's belief. You know, I like to talk about other people, what they believe in, just to say like, hey, okay, that's what you believe in. And we talk some things out with some of my close friends. And, you know, yeah, that's my faith is that's everything for me.
So you figure out exactly what you want, right? Because IMG Academy is good, but it's not as good as committing and submitting.
Absolutely. All right. I agree. I agree.
Take it away, Tommy. This is amazing.
It is. I'm not going to put my life on this, Cordell, but I believe the chances of Homer coming up with at least one more great question before we're done are about as sure as a 15-foot J back in the day when you were shooting it. I'm just grinning ear to ear because, as Homer said, it's like you on the fast break talking about your faith, the joy and the passion. To make yourself as great as you were on the court, you had to will yourself to that. Now you're talking about, no, you're being willing to submit and to surrender and trust. How difficult was that piece for you initially, or were you just able to turn it off and turn it on and say, okay, God, I'm ready. I'm just giving it all to you? Because I think so many of us in our faith walk have that problem on a daily basis.
Right. So it is a step-by-step process. You know, no one's perfect. So at first when I submitted, I said, you know, I was kind of afraid at first because I didn't want to sound like most people think it's a hypocrite. Like, okay, you say something one time and then you're doing something different. So I kind of took that step-by-step process and asked God to kind of refine me and to meet me where I'm at in life. You know, I wasn't trying to skip no steps. So I said, God, I'm not perfect, but if you can make me better than who I was, I'll continue to meet you halfway and keep inching towards you. So it didn't happen overnight. I mean, it was one of those things for me personally. It was a calling since I was a kid, and I just always felt different. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, it's no other way to kind of describe it. I just felt different in a lot of places, like in different phases of my life. You know, we'll be transparent. I used to go to clubs and stuff when I was overseas.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt different. I just felt out of place, and I just felt God talking to me like, you don't belong here. Now, I'm not saying, you know, you're not supposed to be for the club or nothing like that. I'm not saying that. But, you know, you don't want to be like, you say you're all for God and then you end up another place and people looking at you like, oh, you just said you all about God. Why are you here? You know, because, you know, when Jesus was here, he went to everywhere. He went to every place, all walks of life, different, you know, he was everywhere with everybody. So I kind of like slowed it down and, you know, I just asked God to like just work with me until I got to the point where I was comfortable to say, okay, God, I'm here. I fully submit, and it's never a perfect journey. You know, we're all human. You know, we fall short in our fleshly desires sometimes, but you gotta keep asking God for. You gotta keep repenting and keep getting filled just with God's Spirit.
How has being one who has embraced his faith impacted your role as a husband and a father of soon to be, we understand, 4 beautiful girls?
Thank you. It helps a great deal. You know, just in life, all my daughters, you know, we all have stuff that goes on in our life. My wife, she has a job, so it keeps balance to my household. Because you don't know when you wake up what you're gonna endure that day, and going back into coaching, when I started coaching back in 2012 at North Park University, which is a Christian university, I didn't know what type of problems going to walk through my door. So I have to be balanced in my spirit. I couldn't be one way and, tilted to the left or tilted to the right. I have to be centered, because those young men and now these young women, they look up to as a role model. So I want to give them sound advice as a mentor, wherever they look at me as a dad, an uncle, or a friend, or a big brother, or whatever. I have to give them sound advice for whatever, whatever comes through the door. And, my first year as a college coach was some issues that came through that door. Some of my players had some stuff that in their family life. I had to be able to be sound when they came in there and give them sound advice from a spiritual, from the spirit, and not from my flesh, or not what I thought. Not something what God kind of put me to kind of say to them, during those times. So it helped me a great deal in my life. Just as like you say, as a husband, as a father, because you carry that cross. It's not always hard. There is a target. So you got to stay baked. You got to stay grounded.
Come on, Homer. I know you've got one at least.
I've only got 2 left.
Come on with it. I have all day. I'm fine. We can do this another hour. I love this. We can do this another hour.
Back at you. Thank you. We love it.
I can only imagine there's somebody in your family, when they saw your life turn to a faith, somebody had to say, I've been praying for you. I knew this was going to happen. Yeah. I knew this was going to happen. And I know there's that story in your life.
Absolutely. My mom and dad, I'm not saying I was wild or nothing like that. They just wanted me to be grounded in terms of balanced life, because I was always, played 9 years overseas. It just wasn't no balance in my life. So when I stopped playing, and everybody thought I was crazy, honestly. In 2011, when I retired, I was 31 years old. Like I was 31 years old when I retired. I walked away. I just won back-to-back championships in Portugal. Everything was fine. The money was coming in and everything was going good. And I came home, and then that's when the NBA, the lockout started in 2012. And so I went back to Whitney Young, where I graduated from. So it just grounded me. Again, here comes God. Things slowed down. Here comes Mr. G. He comes in, started talking to me, and said, hey, this is where it's at. I started mentoring Jahlil Okafor, Paul White, all of those great guys.
Wow.
I felt great. I was like, okay, I want to give back. This is what I want to do. And I just walked away from it. But my parents, everybody thought I was crazy when I walked away. But it was my parents, thank God that you finally submitted. You committed, then submitted. And, my life, and here I am 7 years later. And things just, it's all about putting things above yourself. Be selfless and serve others. I love to serve other people.
When do you feel closest to God?
When I feel close to God, in the shower. In the shower, that's like the intimate time. It just feels like everything's just, not just there, but because I sing in the shower, so I like to sing a lot. But in the shower and listen to gospel music. When I listen to gospel music, sometimes we have a prayer closet in our house. My wife and myself, we put scriptures on the top, and I go in there sometimes, put the lights off, put the music on. I just worship. I kneel down and worship. So I'll say in the shower, and then in our prayer closet, we just worship God.
I will let Pip finish, but you created one more because I want everybody on YouTube to go to it. The gospel song that you want people to go listen to. You get one.
Woo! Hold on. I'll say Tasha Cobb's "Break Every Chain."
All right.
Tasha Cobb's "Break Every Chain." There's so many of them. I have a gospel playlist that I try not to force my players here in IMG listen to, but when I do play something different, edited version of something else, they're like, Coach, what happened to your playlist? Why are you not playing? So now it's a culture of them listening, they know it's coming. That's going to be gospel, but it's gospel rap as well. So I put a mixture of gospel rap and gospel R&B, but they look forward to it. And, you just never know who you influence. For me, it's not about forcing religion on somebody. It's about them seeing how, the light shine, in individuals. And, you just living your life and, in peace. Life is about being in peace.
Get it to me. You can text your gospel playlist, and I'm sure Brent can put it on here as part of my faith. And
okay.
Man, you got a great smile. Now this is Tommy's last question, and it's great. And so I'm going to steal it from him. And that is, he always says, and it's appropriate, that your last words, what you would want to say to other people about what we've, or whatever you feel, because this is you, now it's, we've asked you, now it's your time to say and talk about it in any way you want that you feel is best for all those people, millions we hope one day that are.
I would say my advice is to anybody, just get rid of distractions and the clutter. God has a message and a purpose for all of us, but sometimes we're so consumed with just life stuff. You got to get to a point of posture. You got to be in a perfect posture to hear God. Sometimes, again, we get consumed with so much, and, we got to start get rid of those distractions and the clutter, and then God will start manifesting his way in our lives in ways we can never imagine. Speaking for me personally, when I got rid of all that clutter and the distractions, and it was like a little light shining at the end of the tunnel, and I just kept walking to it, and just it's what God has for us is better than what we think is best for us. God's spirit is going to outweigh our flesh, because our flesh always wants certain things, and we want. But when you walk in God's spirit, it's going to always be a servant. You want to be a servant, and when you serve other people, nothing but good things going to happen. And serving is not wanting anything back. It's something, just I want to make somebody else better than they were today. I want them to be better tomorrow, the next day, and the next day. And so when you serve and you commit and submit, then life is beautiful and life is peaceful. And you'll be in sunny Florida like this, and sunshine and birds chirping.
Yeah. Cordell, you just amaze me, because, as Homer said, there is that peace. It's absolutely incredible, and God has put you in a spot to really impact others with your faith. Just today, I ran into somebody. We started talking, telling me about a lady who works in Starbucks. Her brother was living with her, and he had some real issues, and she finally said, "You have to leave." He went home to Chicago, and unfortunately, he lost his life. He was killed, and she apparently cannot forgive herself. When we know that there's so much suffering, in the midst of it, we have the peace because we know what Jesus did. But what do you tell someone like that? What do you tell anybody, one of these young kids who's really had it hard growing up, that there is faith, there is hope, there is love in Jesus Christ, no matter what the circumstances may be?
I mean, it's just you can only do so much as an individual, and some of these battles we can't win them all. So you have to give it to God. You have to trust God. You have to take that burden off your heart, because it's too heavy to lift. And I had an incident with my nephew. He passed away when he was 21. He passed away and he had a seizure. 21 years old. He was sleeping in his bed, and I was here in Bradenton. I was at work, and I got a phone call, and then it changed my life. That was 3 years ago. And, I'm looking like, God, I'm like, man. So we're going to always have those questions for God. Like, God, are you serious? Like, my nephew was a great kid, always on the computer and, computer programming. And it's like, great kid. And, he's like, God, like, you serious? Like, how? Why? So we're going to always have those times where we question God, but we have to always know that, he's in control. And, sometimes it sounds cliche, and sometimes we get mad, like, and we have those questions, but you have to always know who's steering the ship, and it's God. He doesn't make any mistakes. Speaking for me, my nephew was, he had seizures. He kept having since he was a kid. We kept getting him help, and in my perspective, it's all about perspective. Is that he's not suffering anymore. It sounds selfish that I wanted him here. I still want him here, but he's in a better place. It's just one of those things that God knew that, he impacted our lives while he was here. And, we still grieving, but we have to let go in terms of God is in control, and we have to find our way to keep using that strength for one another. But it builds our faith in God. We have to dig deeper. We have to keep digging deeper and, get into that gospel.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I heard one say, we pray for healing. Of course, we want healing, but someone shared with me when someone passed away, that's the ultimate healing. When, as you say, you're face to face with Jesus. Homer, anything else for you? I know this. I can't believe Cordell must be pushing 40 if he hasn't hit the mark. I'm going to take
I'm
more.
40.
Yeah,
I'm 40.
there you go. You're 40, and you are a man of God. And I'm going to take more showers, okay, so I can get closer. And I'm going to do something with that playlist. So, Homer, anything else, buddy? Anything else, pal?
No, I look forward, and I'm sure you're there, when you do so many things that people don't think and know of Cordell Henry, basketball player or even basketball coach. And that has already happened, and I'm sure it will continue to happen. And I'm sure that creates a smile like we've seen many times.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.
Cordell Henry, we say that the Holy Spirit brings people together. For your connection with Homer, we're so very grateful for your time, for your incredible faith testimony. We know in our hearts it will continue to bless others, and we thank you for that and wish you and your beautiful family, and praying right through a great pregnancy for you for number 4, all of God's blessings as you continue to be a light in the darkness. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, gentlemen. It was a pleasure.
So, there you go. Cordell Henry, former Marquette great. I can't believe it. What a gift it was to have you. On behalf of Brent Young, our producer, and the incomparable Steve the Homer True, I'm Tom Pippins. This has been My Faith with Homer and Pip. PippinsTom@yahoo.com if you have other guest ideas for us. PIPINES, PippinsTom@yahoo.com. So long, everyone, and thank you